Is there a deal breaker in your life that you just know in your relationship, like, I've got to have this or I'm not going to be happy? I want a child. I really want a child. My partner doesn't. They don't want a child. They just want to be child free. And maybe you're concerned that this could be the end of the relationship, or I really want to convince them to want the same thing out of my life. Hi, I'm Stephanie Cook. I'm a licensed Gottman couples therapist, and I'm also the founder and director of Couples Counseling ATL here in Georgia. And I'd like to tell you that you can figure out what your deal breakers are, what you have to have in a relationship, and also likewise what I can be flexible on so that you can either end a relationship, not pursue any further, or work through the issues that you need to in order to get on the same page about those really core needs that you have in a relationship. I'd like to start with a story. There was once this lovely woman who came to me for therapy, and she knew that she wanted to be a mom. Like, that was a must in her life. And she said, Stephanie, I'm so worried. I'm with this person and I know that they don't want a child. Like, at first I thought that maybe they'd want a child, but they really don't. And I'm just so sad. And she said she'd plop down on my couch, spread out, and just start like crying. Like, she would get so upset. And I would say, whoa. Let's work through this together. Let's figure out if this is indeed a deal breaker. And I'd ask her all kinds of questions, and lo and behold, it was. He really clearly did not want children. And at first she'd get really angry, and she'd say, how could he do this? Like, he said he wanted kids at first, and now he's saying this, and I'm just so angry. If he loved me more. And I'd say, whoa. Let's look at this more closely. And she would realize that it doesn't mean that someone doesn't love you. It doesn't mean you don't love them if you don't want the same things out of life. And people change sometimes. So she was able to realize that he was getting more comfortable and able to be honest with her that he just didn't want kids. She definitely wanted kids. And so she started the difficult but necessary work with me around grieving. Like, I love this person, but we cannot be together. We want different things out of life. And so she started the difficult grief and breakup work. And she was able to say, I love you, but we clearly want different things. Before we get any more invested, let's end this. And she was really happy eventually that she did that. At first it was so hard. But she said, Stephanie, I did it. I broke up with him. Now I can actually start meeting somebody that wants the same things out of life. And she did. It took her a while, but she met somebody and he was lovely, and she just fell in love again. And he wanted kids. She wanted kids. They wanted the same things in lifestyle, philosophically, religiously. They were on the same page. Unfortunately, they hit another bump in the road where she's like, oh my gosh, am I attracted to people who keep changing their mind? Like, she knew that she wanted children. She had been very upfront about that from the beginning. And then lo and behold, they get married, they move in, all this stuff. And he says, I don't know, maybe I don't want kids. And he started backtracking on that deal breaker. And she was really getting frustrated and said, again, have I been lied to? Have I been betrayed? Do I need to just end this relationship? And I said, whoa, let's talk about this again. Let's slow down. That's what we often do in therapy. Let's really look at this and let's feel the emotions, but let's look at this more closely. And she was able to bring him in for some couples therapy as well. And they were able to realize that he actually did want children, but the thought of the realization that, it's getting real, we're actually in a place where we could have kids, was making up all this anxiety in him because he had had a difficult childhood, and it was starting to dredge up some of the unresolved trauma and issues from a really difficult childhood. He didn't want to be the kind of dad he had had. He didn't want his kids to have the kind of childhood he'd had. So he'd started feeling all this anxiety about, maybe I shouldn't be a dad. Maybe I shouldn't bring kids into the world. And she was, again, devastated by that because she started to think it was betrayal when it actually wasn't. He just had some work he needed to work through, and he did. He went and saw an individual therapist, worked through some of his trauma and grief, and was able to feel more confident about his desire to be a dad. So they did end up having children. They are much happier now. They're so glad that they did therapy and that they were able to not just prematurely end the relationship at what seemed like a new deal breaker, that, I want kids, you don't want kids. They were actually on the same page a lot more than they had realized. They just had to do some therapy. So if you are finding yourself in a deal breaker situation, just like my client, where, you want kids, they don't, or I want this religion and they don't, or I want to travel the world and they want to live on the farm. Whatever sort of deal breakers you're facing, you can use therapy to figure out if that is indeed a deal breaker and maybe we need to end the relationship, or if it's not a deal breaker and maybe just you need to do some therapy or you need to work on some blocks and some barriers that are holding you back. So visit counselingatl.com, get a free consult with one of our therapists, or go ahead and set up your intake. But no matter what you decide, know your deal breakers, know what you have to have out of life so that you pick a partner who's aligned with you. And if you're struggling in that area, let us help you. Thanks.